What's going on, everyone? It is your boy Phil Shocker, the 96 Jug here, and we are going for the Week 1 Pickems of the DDL, the Devil's Den League. This is a good time, guys. Believe it or not, as I recorded this video, there will be at least, I think, 2 of the Week 1 games played, but not as of right now, but they will be played later on this day. Maybe 3, possibly, but I don't know. But I'm very excited for the week one hype here. I think there's going to be a lot of great matches this week. I definitely think some good match of the weeks, highlight matches for sure. And really looking forward to the season. With that being said, if you guys are excited for these pickups, leave a like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you are new. Join the Flow Shocker crew today because you'll be feeling king of the crew. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the pickups here. So, first game we've got going on this week. And I'm not doing these in alphabetical order or anything like that. I'm just going to go straight down the line with it. Week one's first game is the Vegas Golden Corviknights and the Minnesota Lycan Rocks being Brendan and Flame. And it's really nice that they're right here because we can actually compare them side by side. So, looking at this matchup, this, in my opinion, is a match of a week match. Because I think you got two teams that really are going to go all out against each other. This is going to be an interesting matchup because Brendan kind of gets kind of body bagged a little bit by Reggie Alecki, but he does have some really good Mon that might pressure Alecki not come. Like obviously he's got Terra on the Zapdos, he's got Corviknight, he's got Rory Mood, he's got Claude, he's got Banded Lycanroc with a Shell Rock that just needs a little bit of chip, and then the Banded Shell Rock can kill Reggie Alecki from whatever range it's at. I do think Clodsire is kind of important to be brought in this matchup. Just because I feel like Flame, I feel like he can't bring any of his Rapid Spinners this matchup. I don't think his Rapid Spinners have that good of a matchup. Like Serena, I think is really bad into Zapdos Corviknight, followed by Clodsire, which can just land a Gunk Shot and knock it out. I do think Regieleki again is really precious this matchup, so I really don't know if I could see Flame bringing any removal this week. If I had to pick between the two, though, he would bring, I think, Regieleki's his best bet, just to guarantee we have speed control, and also to make sure he can just have a fast spitter in case he has his excuse me. As you can tell, it's past 7 a.m. for me, so really early in the morning. But if he really needed removal this matchup, so do you think that's a little bit of an end? I do think hazard stacking on his end will definitely be a little bit of a problem for Flame to deal with, but Brandon Hazard's game again, like I said, was a little weak, and that's the only thing about his draft that it was weak was his hazard stacking because it's really just on Claude. Claude doesn't even have that bad of a matchup here. I think Claude's really, really good at this game. I do think the Landorus is going to be the only thing of an issue possibly for this Clodsire, in my opinion. I do think a lot of other things could be really good here. I think his Genius Typhlosion can go really crazy in this matchup. Like, there is no real good Ghost Resist besides Overquill, but Overquill doesn't want to take a Fire move. Hydreigon is your best bet, but again, Hydreigon gets pressured by offensive Roy Moon that's faster, Iron Valiant, a defensive Corviknight, and even depending on the Terra, Zapdos as well, and even a Lycanroc. So, it's going to be really interesting. Oh, excuse me, sorry. But I will say on Flames end though, Landorus is going to be very problematic for Brendan to move around with. Because if Brendan's any booster energy on Iron Valiant and Roy Moon, if he's forced those out and he loses those energies and he's got Scarf Lando in the back can really just claim houses, especially once that Zapdos' Terra. Earthquake spam besides Corviknight is super free against this team. Heatran, definitely its trapping capabilities can definitely cause a bit of a problem in this matchup. If Brendan is not careful, it is one of the best counters to Corviknight and can actually check Iron Valiant to really do well with the Chocolate Berry if that was a Silk Road. Quagsire, I definitely could see Flame bring Quag just for hazard stacking, but that's the same thing for like Overquill and Spidops. Spidops could potentially come, but I really don't know if it does because Brendan's team, yeah, it's somewhat fast, but like boots are a thing as an option, and plus, I just think Spy Ups is bad. So there's that. Overquill definitely has some chance to show up in this matchup. I think Overquill offensively can really do some good work, especially just clicking Bomb Barrage for the most part. Just from clicking Bomb Barrage for God knows how many times in taunt and potential spikes on his end, definitely could really hazard stack up on Brendan if he's not careful. So I definitely think Flame is going to have to bring the hazards to Brendan to force removal with his Corviknight on the defog. So, but if you want my opinion on who gets advantage of the matchup, I think I'm going to give it to Brendan this week. Um, but I don't think Flame could not be a slot shedder. I think this is like a 60-40 in my opinion. I think Brendan takes the 60% on this matchup here, and Flame will take the 40%. I just think when it comes to these team comparisons, I feel like Brendan's team has more options to just really crush and like whittle down more of Flame's team than Flame I feel like could. But Flame again, like I said, I'm not gonna count him out of this matchup. He does have a really good team, and he doesn't have that bad of a matchup going into Brendan, and so it's gonna be very interesting to see how we go with this game. Game number two, we've got Incog M versus the Golden State Wooloos versus the AI generated Porygons in Coach Beta, and for me, guys, this is match of the week. This for me, and this is another one that's like next to each other. Let's go, baby. Let's go. This for me is match of the week, just because you have someone that is that entertaining in Incog versus one of the geniuses of Pokemon in Beta, in my personal opinion. And this is an interesting matchup. This is a matchup that can really go either way. Now, obviously, Incog handicapped himself by having a Luminion and Kamala on his team, but he's got a Spectrier, and you look at Beta's team, he would be forced to bring Mousehold or a Terra Normal King Gambit. Otherwise, Beta gets cooked by Spectrier. Absolutely cooked by Spectrier. Glow King also is also insanely good in this matchup. Great Tusk can really go offensively good crazy in this matchup, but don't think that's all the best of a break against this team. Rotom Wash definitely seems like one of the most annoying defensive mons paired with Slow King to really go around. Battle Ball or Protein Grin is going to be really good in this matchup. I think Florges can actually be quite annoying, as Beta really does not have a Fairy Resist outside of the Gengar. And Gengar will end the Arcanine. But Arcanine kind of gets pressured by the Double Waters, plus Great Tusk, and also even Red Drago. So I do think Incog does have a pretty solid matchup, and even have the Terra Oricorio, which is going to probably be one of his late game cleaners. I don't know exactly what Terras are going to be brought into these matchups, so I'm not going to really cover the Terra. But I think in terms of Terra, I do think the Terra King Gambit looks better in this matchup than the Oricorio does. But I wouldn't say the Oricorio is a slouch pick here in this matchup. I do think Beta does have to take a little bit of preparation and a little bit of seriousness up with the Oricorio, as that can be a really slept on Pokemon. Again, Revelation's Dance is stronger than Terra Blast, so get a Quiver Dance with Revelation's Dance, getting the boost from the Terra type, is actually going to be insane. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this matchup goes. Like I said, for me, this is match of the week just because of how entertaining this game is going to be. Hopefully, someone streams or uploads it because I would definitely watch this from start to finish. If I'm going to give matchup to, I'm gonna because the thing with Incog's team, you look at his team, like he kind of has a really bad like King Gambit matchup. He also has a really bad Torn matchup in my opinion, even though he has a Burrow and Wash, which is the best Torn check in the game. But I think he just gets well down. Torn just cleans up with Grass Knot on it. Mousehold actually can kind of just Mousehold can just kind of win, which is kind of funny. But I'm gonna I'm gonna give this a 55-45. Like I feel like the matchup favors Incog just a little bit more than Beta does. So I'm gonna give Incog the 55 and Beta the 45. I do think though this matchup can seriously go either way between these teams. But I think just looking on paper and then talking all out, I do think Incog does have the tiny edge over Beta in this matchup. But I'm not going to doubt Beta because of how creative this man can be and how talented he is. So, like I said, if it was really up to me, I would say it's a 50-50 matchup. But if you're just going off of paper and how teams look, I do think Incog has the slight edge going to the matchup. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and game number 3, the Indianapolis Infernos versus the Las Vegas Rotoms here. We got Trey versus Rose, and obviously their teams are going to be slightly hard to do because they're up and down here, but we're going to start here. So we have Rose's team here, as you can see from the top, and you got Trey's team here on the bottom. if you realistically look at the top three of Rose versus the versus just Trey's team in general, that team is so like half of his team is literally built perfectly right there. I do think there's a lot of cool defensive pieces he can bring to this matchup. Like I think of Gastrodon, I think is forced to be brought in this matchup. Gastrodon just checks a lot of things as well. It can help deal with the airship and Raptor Strike, even though it does have Trailblaze, so that's something Rose does have to be on the lookout for. Um, Goldengo, Tinglu, and Rowan, who all get beaten and well, maybe except Tinglu possibly. He can actually, but it takes a lot of damage. Gastrodon is insanely annoying for Trey to really break defensively. I think also Quaquaval can also really just steamroll if he gets going. I do think Trey is kind of almost pressured to bring Ditto this matchup just because of the baby on the copy, Chimpow's ability, copy a Dragapult, Gastrodon to walk Quavel. I think Trey does have some sleeper threats and some sleeper ideas for his team here, going against Rose's team. Terra Spothra is also just a menace to society here. Like that thing is so hard to protect sometimes for Terra, even though it kind of looks like you could like picture it right away. There's a lot more creativity that Trey has to kind of go with here, just because he has to be a little more considerate of for one, an versus Terra, excuse me, but also on the factor that he has to be on the lookout for everything else on the draft that he can be able to comfortably beat if it was just 1v6 with the Spothra. So a lot of things to factor in this matchup. I do think like kind of Rose's lower half here can't fully take advantage of what's being brought here, except maybe potentially Raichu. Raichu doesn't look that bad. Hatterene's look kind of okay in this matchup. Like I just don't think you're bringing some of these things. Like I don't think you're bringing Colossal, Arbolive, or a Muk. I don't think you bring any of those Pokemon. I think you're either bringing the top six or at least the top three. Then considering the next top three, and then considering potentially Raichu and Hat. Where I think Trey can kind of just go a little bit more creative side and just trying to build around whatever main six he needs here. So I do think in terms of prep, I do think Trey has slight favoritism there. But I think if we're looking straight up on matchup, I think Rose is looking pretty good here. I think we're going to do another like kind of 55-45 here. I do think I will give the 55 to Rose though, because I feel like he has a slightly better matchup going into Trey here. But Trey definitely has some ways I feel like he can definitely counter team Rose's team. Even though if like Rose is kind of hindered on like 6-8 Pokemon on his draft for this game, which I feel like he kind of is. I think Trey can definitely make work and actually really prepare a really good counter team to what Rose can really bring in this matchup. So definitely not sleeping on Trey in this matchup, but I think I'm going to give the edge slightly to Rose though, just because of his top three being so really good, and plus some of the other options he has on his team that can really handle all things. So that being said, we're going up next to the Gaming Titans versus the Hershey Viewers in Coach Cameron versus Wamar Pigniter. So we look at Wamar's team, here. So he got his team right here. And then you got Cam's team, which is right here, which actually can work actually going up and down. So on paper, this is quite interesting on matchup, but I'm looking at that Sandy Shocks versus this Bewares. Sandy Shocks goes in under the right conditions with Terra. Electric plus ground really just goes through Cameron's team, and Cameron does not have good switch-ins to that Pokemon at all, so that's really important. Urshifu Single Strike is also a massive threat versus Cameron's draft. I do think Lamar's biggest challenge in this matchup is going to be the Volcarona, but more importantly, I definitely think it's going to be Hawlucha. I think that makes Lamar forced to easily bring Dirge to this matchup just because he has to bring it for the Lucha. I feel like I do think if Lamar loses Lucha in this game, Lucha kind of just wins. I feel like unless like he can really build some really cool defensive core pieces. Obviously, Tinkaton could still be a problem for Cam with that Lucha, but I really think there's gonna be a lot of. I think Lamar is definitely gonna be forced to bring kind of more of a defensive offensive team in some ways, like build his defensive bonds relatively good bulky, but still be very good offensively, and then have like Urshifu and Shocks be really strong breakers here. I really am considering here of what else he's going to really do in this matchup. I do think hazard stacking from Cam's side is definitely going to be the play into Lamar because I think Lamar, again, like I said, he's going to be forced to bring Toad Scroll if he really wants to stop any potential removal. And Toad Scroll, in my honest opinion, does not have a good matchup here. Like Masquerada can beat it, Sylveon can just sub up and then just Calm Mind and it can't win. Dozo literally with Rest Sleep Talk beats that thing 1v1. Treads beats it 1v1. Volcarona, Gilmora, the list basically goes on. I feel like hazard stacking is going to be sent Lamar's way, in my opinion, in this matchup. But do think there is some potential here that Lamar can be able to get past it, though. Um, I do think Dirge. I think Dirge plus Shocks plus Urshifu is gonna really wreck Cam here. Cam, like I said though, he's got some good things. Like I think Volcarona's good into him. Like I said, I think Masquerada's good for pivoting. Lucha's gonna be really good. These two I think are irrelevant. They're not gonna come. I will say one thing that's going to hinder Cam in this matchup, though, is if he really wants the electric terrain boost for not only Iron Treads, if he brings that to this matchup, but also if he really wants to proc Unburdened Seed with this, you're forcing to bring this Pernurchin, which I don't know if Cam's going to want to be forced to bring that. But Pernurchin really can't do much in this matchup, I feel like. So it's gonna be interesting. I do think I'm gonna give the slight edge though to Cameron here, just I think just on paper, if we're looking from an offensive standpoint and just how the team functions, I really think Cam's team is gonna really slightly overwhelm Lamar, but I definitely don't think Lamar is gonna be out for sure. Like I definitely think Lamar can definitely get past this offense and be able to kind of counteract. So again, I feel like this is another 55-45. I'm gonna give probably the matchup to Cameron here, just because again I think if you look at Cameron's team compared to Lamar, I definitely think you see the options of what Cameron can do with his team going into Lamar. But again, Lamar, I know he's a talented player. I know how good he is, and I know he can definitely make what he's got to do in this matchup work, and he's gonna be able to really function well with it. So very excited to see this matchup. Another really good battle this week, and I cannot wait to see how it goes down. Next match we have going on is the Sakura Sylveons versus the Stockland Sarah Ledges. That is Coach Sophie Sasakwe. And I know I must say that wrong, but I said it in a fancy way. Versus Bloody here. So, we look at Sun. You look at her team. Sun destroys Sophie. Sun is an absolute menace to Sophie's draft. I think you look at Walking Wake and Arcanine. Nothing is switching in on these Pokemon. They have no switch-ins whatsoever against this team. The only thing that Sophie going in this matchup is Volcanion to be able to wall the Walking Wake, but then it can't wall and or beat Eastern Arcanine unless it's Choice Scarf. Hoopa Unbound is going to be very obviously threatening every single week. I feel like that if you're not bringing your Terra Captain relatively every single week, then it's like not a good choice for your Terramon then. So I definitely think Hoopa Unbound can go like insanely good. I really have no idea what kind of Terra type you bring into this matchup. I do think though Bloody is forced to bring Torkoal if he's bringing Sun. I actually think I did discuss. I think I actually heard Bloody discussing this matchup, but I will not say any details about that. Just to be fair, this is going to be just me talking personally. Looking at Torkoal being brought, I mean, Torkoal's not necessarily bad in this matchup. Torkoal can actually just check Earthworm and Cryogonal relatively well. It also pretty much takes on the Electrode relatively good if it's Spadef, which is really nice. Overall, though, I mean, Lilligant doesn't seem that bad in the matchup as well, but I feel like Lilligant needed to be hustled this matchup just to really check all things offensively. I do think it hits harder with hustle in this matchup versus the chlorophyll, in my opinion. But I really do think there's a lot of things on Blaze team that really comes in offensively well. Like, it just really just worked. Kilowatcho kind of goes insane in this matchup as well. There's like no real good switch into Kilowatcho at all in this team. Like Sunny Electro gets walled by Full Absorb, and just everything else just does not take a Thunderbolt or a Hurricane combination at all. Ursaluna, I feel like might come to this matchup, but I can see Ursaluna just staying home. I do think Annihilate just goes absolutely insane in this matchup if bulk up with something like Spadef bulk up. I mean, Crest potentially with screens. You know, Annihilate just goes insane. I think I'm gonna go with a 70-30 matchup here. I do think Bloody does have big matchup here, but one of the things I think a lot of people are gonna sleep on Sophie's team is definitely again that Stone Axe. Stone Axe getting free rocks every single time is gonna be really great. Volcanion, such an underrated threat. I do think Volcanion can be really good in this matchup if Sophie brings like the right set. Ursaluna could definitely be able to sponge hits and run just a plethora of moves, be able to counteract a lot of things. Hoop Unbound is a Hoop Unbound, man. That thing's gonna hit hard. I think the trump card that Sophie's gonna have on her team, though, that is gonna give her the slight edge to really put herself in a winning position, is this Zoroark. This Sicilian Zoroark to disguise as anything is gonna trip Bloody up. That Bloody now has to second guess every single move he's gonna click every single time. So I overall do think Bloody has matchup, but I don't count Sophie out because Sophie has hidden threats and has threats on her team that definitely Bloody has to prepare for and has to be prepped and ready for. But again, like I said, I'm going to give this to a 70-30, giving Bloody the edge in this matchup. Getting next to our final matchup, it is me versus the Carolina Toro Heels in Shadow. Now, I will not talk about this matchup in too much detail just because, for one, we are playing this literally later today, and I might try to upload this before me and Shadow play, so that way Pickems can go out and everyone can kick their guesses. Which, by the way, if you guys haven't already, definitely go leave your guesses in the comment section below on who you think's winning each week, and tell me how many you get right. Go and roll. Let's just have a nice little game to try to see who's the better at guessing these teams. So Shadow's team versus my team. Obviously, you see Shadow's team is going to be over here, and you're going to look down at my team. Now, I will point out some things that I definitely noticed on Shadow's end. If you look at Shadow's team, he gets cooked by Bramblegast. I kid you not. Look at this man's team. Weak to weak, loses to the grass, loses to grass, loses to grass, ghost, loses to ghost, loses to grass or ghost, loses to grass and ghost, loses to 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 ghost. He literally has no ghost switching on his entire draft, which is pretty funny. So I was heavily considering Bramblegast for this matchup, just because Bramblegast is really, really good. You know, a lot of things Shadow has. So I really felt good about that. Some of the things that Shadow has really good against him is that Bax Caliber and that Thundy, and honestly, his double fighting core. I do think his double fighting core plus Thundy and Bax are going to be really hard for me to check offensively with my defense. I also think Azumarill is just insanely free in this matchup. I do think Azumarill has no drawback from a lot of things. There's only a few sets I could see him bringing. I could see him bringing any potential like defense Azu that checks certain things, or either belly drum Azu or a choice banded Azu. I feel like those three sets are the only viable sets versus me in this matchup. I do think Shadow will lean towards more of the offensive set. I feel like Bandit is just a safer bet for him in this matchup, if I'm going to be brutally honest, because he's going to rely on his defense pretty much in his Amoonguss and his other few Pokemon that I feel like he would bring in this matchup. I do think though Shadow has to fear a couple things on my team though. He really has to be on the lookout for Sneasler. Sneasler, if it gets rolling, can really punish him if he's not very careful. And that's one thing I really like about this as well, is that he has to be very careful of and mindful of that. I do think he has to really worry what Terra I'm going to be on Thunderous. This matchup, just because he can't be in that, and plus what I feel like his sets are with some of his Pokemon, I feel like can counteract a couple of things. My Gardevoir can go really insane against him since he's not have a Dark type, and his Steel type literally gets countered by a Mystical Fire. So theoretically, I'm free to spam my Fairy and Psychic moves whenever I see fit into this matchup, which I think is really cool. Talonflame offensively really checks a lot of things. I do need to be careful not to click my Flare Blitz until I know for a fact I can weaken down that Bax Caliber, but more importantly until I know that Terra pops off, because if that Terra is something that can counteract a Ephemeral Exchange, that is going to be something I need to be very careful about. There's a couple of things I can really do. I think my Rotom looks really good. My Tyranitar even looks relatively good against him, because again, he does no Dark types and Dark Resist on anything that he has a Dark Resist can potentially have coverage and could potentially check me. But my Tyranitar, I was just offensively check him as well. I do think I'm a little restricted in my matchup against Shadow, a little bit, as I did make some changes before I joined my team against him. I do think I give matchup though to Shadow. I just think he has really good offense that overwhelms me. And I think this is more like a 60-40. I definitely think Shadow has the matchup with the 60%. But I don't count myself out. I do think I can win. I just have to play really smart. I don't know how long Shadow's been playing, but I do think I have, in terms of playing, have the years over him. But again, as much as a lot of people don't know, all because you've got more experience and you've played it longer than anyone else, you could still lose to someone that's still been very experienced, but has less experience as you. But you can definitely lose if you're not careful. So I do see myself having to struggle in this matchup. But if I play my cards right and I play my team right, I can be able to win this matchup. So definitely, it's a tough week one for us this week, so it's gonna be very interesting to see that. But yes, that is gonna be the schedule for week one games. As you guys can see, the other schedules out here for all the other games, but we're not gonna cover them. I'm just gonna show them off right here. We'll cover them week by week and go from there. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching for the Pickems. Let me know in the comments below who you think are winning week one this week, and let's just see how many we get right going on. With that being said, though, leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Join the Flipshock Recruiter Academy because you're looking at the crew. And with that being said, I will see you guys for either potential trade and transactions videos, or coach interviews, or the week one results / week two pick'ems going up next week. So definitely be on the lookout for the DDL content there, guys. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.